There were two other producers. I think it's really important to recognize that Joan Harrison was working at a time when, again, there weren't very many. It was very difficult, I think. Producing in particular is something that was considered a role that required skills that were seen as, more business oriented. They required like financial skills, accounting skills, and also the kind of the wearing that hat where you're going to tell people no a lot, and you're hiring and firing people, and you're basically kind of at the end of the line in terms of being the boss. And so it was not likely that women would be producers. They might be screenwriters, women in screenwriting positions, they might be editors. Obviously, they could be costumers or in kind of design roles. So when I say that there were only three women producers in the studio era, meaning the 1930s and 40s and 50s, within that commercial setting, that is not very many women at all. And they supported each other. They knew that they were alone, together. And so that would have been Harriet Parsons was one of them, and she was at most of the time she was at the studio RKO, and then there was also Virginia Van Up, and she was at the studio Columbia working alongside basically the head of that studio, Harry Cohn. And Harry Cohn was known, I mean, he's legendary for being a real, very hard person, for being somebody who would speak off the cuff, um, just just awful. I mean, really awful. Nobody had kind things to say about Harry Cohn, and would just kind of wield power in ways that were quite unfair. So the fact that Virginia Van Up, was essentially his right-hand woman, and also she was the executive producer there at Columbia Studios or Columbia Pictures. And apparently, legend has it that when she was selected to work as kind of be the head of nine other producers, and they were all men, um, they all threatened to quit, because they said, we don't want to work for a woman. And Harry Cohen said, well, then you're fired. So he literally fired nine people rather than say fire her. And that was a power move that he made to show that he was completely invested in Virginia Van Up, which I think is a great anecdote. Joan Harrison was the first, right, and this was in 1943 when she was announced at Universal to be the first producer at a studio. And then just a few months later, like 6 months later in 1944, came Harriet Parsons, I believe, and then Virginia Van Up came soon after. But they were all working at the studios in the 1940s.